And we'll get started. Fantastic. Okay. Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 7th, 2026, and we are on the Joint Affordable Housing Group Zoom. For those who don't know me or anyone watching this later, I'm Laura Silber. I'm the Island Housing Planner for Martha's Vineyard, and I'm joined by my colleague Lucy Morrison, who's running the Zoom. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. I hope you guys had a happy new year and good holidays. And we are going to launch right in by checking in on everybody's warrant articles. I know a number of the affordable housing committees are either assisting the planning board or have drafted their own warrant articles that have been approved for submission. And I'm wondering if we could go around town by town and just check in because there's quite a bit of overlap. Anne, would you be willing to share for Chilmark?
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, we are just about finished with submitting for the warrant article our short-term rental bylaw. That dovetails obviously with our ADU and is needed given the court cases that are undetermined out of Nantucket. That's the main one. And we're continuing to work on special permit ADUs that won't make it for this meeting, probably this ATM.
Okay. And then is there a warrant article that the Affordable Housing Committee is putting in about funding for the Lease to Locals program?
Yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
what is that? What is that funding request?
It's for a second year. I for I can't remember how much we worked it out last week. We're not going to do it through the Municipal Housing Trust as we did this year. We're going to do it through the warrant article.
Okay.
And we hope to join with West Tisbury, which brings down our admin costs. We're working, uh, and it's really exciting to work with West Tisbury because the regional effort is going to really pay off, I think, because we have such limited stock in Chilmark.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anne. So I don't see Jeffrey on here, so we'll wait on West Tisbury just in case he shows up and then move over to Tisbury. Victor, can you give us an update on the warrant articles
Um,
and related?
there's traditional warrant articles that have to do with CPC funding for the trust and the Dukes County Housing. There we at a special town meeting in 2024, Tisbury passed both their ADU by right bylaw as well as a short-term rental bylaw. There has not been any administrative bylaw to implement the short-term rental uh, bylaw, which is a good bylaw. And then we are preparing and will discuss at our next Affordable Housing Committee, and it has been included in an initiative that we're calling the Tisbury Expanded Rental Assistance Pilot to have um, a residential tax exemption apply to people who rent affordable units. And that bylaw is modeled after what was done in the town of Egremont and was done also in the town of Harwich and actually several other communities in Massachusetts. And that will be submitted to, it's been discussed with the Finance Committee. It will be submitted to be approved by the Select Board and all before the March deadline.
Okay. Is this the same? Is this the same as the Provincetown Home Rule petition type of?
It's not a home rule petition at all. It doesn't need to
Okay.
be. It's a it's there's Mass General law
Okay.
passed.
Victor, that when you guys get that language and your select board approves, can you share it with me and I'll share it out with the other towns because that seems like the kind of thing everybody else is going to want to look at.
I'd be happy to share what we have now, but when the select board approves, I think is a key statement.
That's okay. If you have a working draft that the other towns can take a look at, I think since a lot of folks are interested in this and we've had
We do.
movement
We
with the
do.
residential
I,
tax exemption and
I
stuff.
do. I have that,
Great.
and
And then are you guys also
actually, that is going to be, as I said, discussed at our next meeting, which
okay.
is on the Tuesday the 13th.
Okay. Do you have a warrant article requesting funding for the expanded rental assistance pilot? Is there another warrant article requesting
We,
funding or no?
we really don't need that
Oh,
because we
great.
have
Okay.
money going into the trust. And it's the trust, it's an action of the trust that, so, what we do have, which is what I mentioned to start with, is there's usually a warrant article
Oh
to
my
have some
God, yeah.
town funds go into the trust as well.
Okay. And what amount are you guys, do you have an amount
I
specified?
don't, I don't know. The CPC amount is 50,000 that goes into the trust. I don't know what the town contribution amount article
Okay.
is. Well, I don't know for sure that there is one, to tell you the truth, but there
Okay.
normally is one. It's
Okay.
usually 35 to $50,000.
All right. Great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see Jeffrey on the call. Wanda, are you prepared to share what West Tisbury's working on, or do you want me to wait and see if Jeffrey shows up? Oh, I think she's on a phone call. Okay. John, yeah.
So Laura, um, West Tisbury's working on three warrant articles with the planning board, and I could describe those if you want.
Perfect. Thanks, John.
The first one is expanding the demolition delay from 30 days to 180 days, which is how it is on Nantucket, to encourage house moving and saving. The second one is reducing the size of home site lots that landowners can create from, I think, from an acre to a half acre.
Yeah.
Maybe Cass knows exactly. And the third one is changing the bylaw about employee dormitories to include their use as workforce housing.
That's to ensure year-round.
Right. To include year-round and also to remove the AMI restriction. Thanks
Right,
for reminding me of that, John.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Um, and
For
sorry, what's that, Wanda?
the landowners we're referring to, I think there's about 74 or so. I checked with the assessor of homeowners who have 3+ acres. So anyone with basically 3.5 plus acres may do this as long as they remain with 3 acre minimum. They are something from a half acre up to an acre, just to
Right.
give it.
So what this does is it reduces the required size of the carve off to make it more possible for people to carve off a home site lot to make it available for year-round housing.
It also means that people that have larger properties and don't want to carve off as much as an acre could
Mhm.
do a half an acre.
Right.
So that is,
Shanette, I see Shanette from Agrietown. We were just going around, Shanette, and just talking about any warrant articles that the Affordable Housing Committees have are submitting for town meeting or any related joint planning board, Affordable Housing Committee bylaws. So I know Julie is on here now that I see that Shanette's on here. Maybe you guys can give an update for Edgartown.
I'll let Julia give her update because the Edgerton Affordable Housing is not doing any warrant this year coming up. We decided that we were going to go for the full funds from the seasonal community. So we're doing that application for the project that we have instead of going for the warrant. So that's the route we took.
Great, thanks. Julia, what about the
Um,
planning board?
I don't think that there's anything to report. We tried, well, our subcommittee tried to put together an improved sort of ADU guest house accessory apartment,
Mhm.
and they decided it was so complicated that they gave up. So we'll we'll do that next year, I think. And we do have a short-term rental committee, but they haven't come up with anything yet. Maybe next year.
Okay. I think Cass, when you guys get the demolition delay bylaw language down and that gets filed, I'd love to share that out with the rest of the towns because I know Edgartown was discussing that in the Affordable Housing Committee. And I think the other towns would be able to use that information and start thinking ahead towards either special town meetings or next year.
Absolutely. I kind of had it. We were working on it in mid-December, and then I had to try a couple cases in the district court, and then I went on vacation. And
Totally fine.
unfortunately, the vacation took me to the Virgin Islands, and so my return involved, the decapitation of the Venezuelan government. Obviously, got in the way of that. So I'm a little behind the eight ball. I'll have Jeffrey an updated semifinal draft tonight.
Super, thank you. That's okay. I think Edgartown's warrant they've already passed their submission deadline, so they would be looking at it for the next cycle anyway.
Maybe I should add that
Yeah.
the zoning bylaw review committee is starting to put together a list of possible zoning changes. And once they got the list put together, they will try to prioritize. So, there is hope for next year.
Great. Good. I think there's going to be stuff to use from the other towns too. The employee dormitories. And Julie, I want you to know, like West Tisbury looked at the Edgartown employee dormitories bylaw, so it's really helpful to have all this information open and
Yeah,
available to all the towns.
great, great.
I don't see a Quina on here. Do we have anybody from Oak Bluffs?
Yeah, I'm from Oak Bluffs.
Oh, Richard, hi. Sorry, I didn't see you there. You're not on the Affordable Housing Committee
No,
though.
I'm not officially on the committee, and I don't know for sure what Oak Bluffs is voted to put on the warrant. Sorry, can't help.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't think we have an update from Oak Bluffs. And then we got Edgerton. Oh, I think we got everybody. Okay. Are there any questions about warrant articles that are in process or this town meeting cycle round topics? No? Okay. And if not, I'm just going to put in a plug for Dukes County rental assistance so that everybody's supportive of those warrant articles. I see David on the call. Um, and so let's move on to the next topic, which is the demolition delay bylaw and this very interesting house moves initiative that John Abrams is working on. I'd asked John to just talk a little bit about this because it's one of the things that spurred West Tisbury to look at updating their demolition delay bylaw. And updating those bylaws was a primary recommendation in the 2024 zoning analysis. So John can talk about what the actual on-the-ground application of this looks like and why it's so important.
So there is a reawakening interest on the island in moving houses. Some of you might recall that in the early 2000s, we moved maybe a dozen houses for affordable housing. And Nantucket has an incredibly active program. They are moving dozens of houses. And one of the things that contributes is the 6 month demolition delay because it takes you past, you can get around the summertime when you really can't move houses. And it also gives the time for planning because it's very complicated to orchestrate a house move. Got to have a place to put it. And right now, in fact, the Edgartown health agent, Bryce, is in the process of moving a house that will probably be done within a month. So there's a lot of interest in this. And Philippe and Keith from IHT and I are planning to meet with Nantucket soon. We have some funding available to get a program started here. So it's just and I know Edgartown's really interested in this. So it's just in the formative stages.
Yeah,
Any questions?
I would just like to say that this is something that is of great interest. We haven't talked about it a great deal in Showmark, but we should, and we will be. And one thing I'd like to mention is this whole business is all part of the business of repurposing existing structures, but it's also consonant with something like what Billy Dillon's involved in with Cominca USA and bringing in, it's like any of the barn things coming in from upper
Yeah.
New England or whatever. It's all part of this thing, and I think all of these things need to keep we need to keep bringing attention to all of these initiatives because they're all involved in more or less the same general idea. And I think we need to just be aware of all the things that are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
they also dovetail with the idea of creating these home site lots. We're
Mm.
seeing more of these lots being created through mitigation offers
Yeah.
for through the MVC, and then West Tisbury's looking at, how to make their home site lot provision more usable. Um, then you wind up with the expense of how do you get a house on these home site lots. So the success on Nantucket has largely been pairing these house moves with covenant lots, which are these home site lots. And they have over 100 covenant lots that have been created. So, Jeanette, I see your hand up.
Yes, I have a question for John, Abram. I wanted to know if um, he said he's working with Philippe. Is that like a new nonprofit that they will be doing for the island, something like what Nantucket has called the housing? Is this going to be a regional thing? Is it like a nonprofit? What exactly are they doing with this housing
so
new
we've only
development they're
had, so Shanette, we've only had an initial conversation, but one possibility is that IHT would take on creating a program, and the Island Affordable Housing Fund might fund that. So we don't know what shape it's going to take, but it's going to move somewhere. And this first effort on the part of West Tisbury to get the 180 days, I think is really important because a real, as Laura said, then that can be shopped around to the other towns, and it's critical to get that part done.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would agree. So everybody, I think, we talked about like most of the deadlines have already sort of happened for the
Yeah, it's a
for
next year
most of the
thing.
towns for next year, but there are some, I think Tisbury's is late. So Victor, if you want some information from West Tisbury, this kind of goes along with, the preserving year-round housing that Tisbury's been focusing on so much. Um, you could, if you want to send me an email and I'll connect you with West Tisbury so that they can get their language to you so you guys can take a look. And I know folks have special town meetings coming up you know, in the fall as well. So that window is really important because the other thing it does on Nantucket is it incentivizes the homeowner who wants to demolish the house to actually actively participate in getting the house moved off the property.
And
So,
by and by the way, there's a really great funding mechanism built into this that I don't know if Nantucket is using. But what we used to do is the homeowner would donate the house to a nonprofit, and in that case, it was the Island Affordable Housing Fund. Now it might be IHT, and an appraisal is done of the value of the house that's being donated. And then the homeowners are asked to donate in cash the value of their tax deduction to help with the move. And they still save significant money because they do not have to demolish the house. So it's a really neat little built-in funding mechanism. Not everybody will go along with it, but we found that people were wide open to it.
great. Thanks, John. So we'll look forward to updates on that. And I'll pass around the West Tisbury's languages whenever I get that from those guys. Does anybody have any more questions on the demolition delay or the house moves? Okay, moving along to the housing production plan status update. So Alex Elvin right now on the Martha's Vineyard Commission staff is actually updating the HPPs with the 2023 ACS information because that's now all out and available. It doesn't change any of the goals and strategies or any of that stuff. What it does is just take some of the numbers and just updates them to the most recent because I believe Oak Bluffs is the only one that's passed it for filing yet. So by the time the other towns adopt it, it's going to be better to have the 2023 ACS numbers in there. The trends are all the same. So there's no changes in any of the trends. It's just the updated numbers from 2022 to 2023. So once we have those finished, I'll circulate those all out. If Oak Bluffs has already filed, it's totally fine. An amendment doesn't even need to be filed with the state because there's no change in any of the goals or strategies. It just gives the towns the updated data to actually have on board and to work with. Are there any updates from the towns on, has anyone's status changed? Let me put it that way. I know that the towns are all working one by one. The planning board in Edgartown voted to adopt Julia, if I'm not mistaken, right? Has the select board put it on their agenda yet or not yet?
I think the answer to that is no, but I'm encouraged because on Monday at the select board meeting, Art Smadbeck gave a little mini speech about how the highest priority for the select board is affordable housing. So I don't know if he's saying that, maybe that will lead to the select board actually adopting the HPP. I hope.
Okay.
Fingers
Well,
crossed.
if anyone has updates, if you could let me know, that would be super. And if there are any boards that want me to attend a meeting to help explain or answer questions, please try to give me notice so I don't find out the day of, like I have with some of the other votes.
To, to
I'm always
Tis,
happy to go. What's that?
the Tisbury, we the Affordable Housing Committee sent formal letters to both the select board and the planning board
Okay.
to recommending adoption. The planning board, I know, has had a discussion that I think ended up raising lots of questions that
That's fine. It's an
were
internal process, so
part of the process, I guess.
it's part of the
So,
process. Yeah. So
yeah,
if I can
yeah,
assist in any way, then please reach
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Okay, super. Are there any questions on the housing production plan, like the status or anything like that, or HPPs in general? Because if not, we'll move on to the next topic. Seeing no hands, we'll go on to the update on the transfer fee and the housing bank now that we are in the last 6 months of formal session. John, do you want to give a little update on what the coalition's up to? And then I can update on stuff from my end.
Well, we are feeling more positive than ever, but we always feel positive. And what I can tell you about the coalition is the coalition is fully engaged and in business until the transfer fee passes. And it doesn't matter if that's this session or next session or the session after that. This will not slow down. But we have the feeling is that there's a very good chance that the seasonal there are several transfer fee bills, but the Seasonal Communities Act, which is one of Julian Sears' bills, would apply. It would enable transfer fees just in seasonal communities, which means Vineyard, Nantucket, all of the Cape, and some Western Mass towns. So there's strong momentum now. It's already been, the bill has been reported out of the Housing Committee. And, we won't know anything till July 31st, except that everybody is working very hard. And it's great that, I mean, the commission and Laura are completely engaged in this. Nantucket is all the way in. I just think there's a feeling of momentum right now. Would you add to that, Laura?
Yeah, so I think what we're going to need from all you guys is a full court press. So there is momentum when we get to the point where support letters are needed. We're going to need them quickly, as we always do. So I've lost track a little bit on where each town is with pre-approving letters to support the transfer fee bills. I did send a request out, and I know most of the towns voted to pre-approve to the select boards to, and it's different in every town, so forgive me. Some of the towns, it's the select board that is going to send the letter, and some of the towns, it's select board, planning board, and affordable housing committee, and it depends on your structure. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is help me with this homework and check in and check back in your notes. Maybe Julia and Jeanette, you can find this in the votes for your town, and I'm going to ask West Tisbury, Wanda to do the same, and the other towns as well. Check and see if you voted to pre-approve your board administrator sending in a support letter for the transfer fee bills. And what I'll do is I'll dig back and I'll find the request letter I believe I sent it out in the fall. Um, and then I will resend it, but I need some help on the town end, like making sure that those votes were taken so that when a request comes in saying, hey, this hearing just got called or Senator Sear needs letters to go into the Senate president, that the appropriate votes have been taken. So your administrators or your chairs or whomever's been designated could just go ahead and send that off. Peter, you have a question?
I just wanted to say in the business of organizing or getting my own thoughts together for the last letter in support that sent to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I I realized something, and I'm sure you're all aware of, but an argument that's based on the land bank that one of the important things of getting this passed would be to allow housing committees to plan ahead. That idea that the land bank has of being able to look ahead to priorities identified down the road, possible properties that might come into play down the road, something where we have the notion of very limited parcels coming up, that this would be a very important tool. And it seemed to me a very good argument that I hadn't heard before, and I thought it was an important thing to include in any letter of support for these bills.
Thanks, Peter. That's a primary part of the act establishing the Martha's Vineyard Housing Bank. So that is used heavily as
Yeah.
a point of argument for that particular bill. So, and it definitely falling under the seasonal communities, that idea of the towns being able to be, or the communities being able to be players in the real estate market. So, but thanks for elevating that. I appreciate it. So are there any questions on that? Can I ask for a commitment from everybody? Just go do a little homework in your boards and see if you've confirmed that if you've taken the vote, fantastic. Just shoot me an email saying we've already taken the vote. We can go ahead and send that letter. Um, and if I could ask any admins on here to just, Jeanette, if I can ask you to follow up and see if your select board's taken that vote. I cannot recall if they have or not, and I'll do some homework on my end as well.
Okay.
Laura, did you
Yeah.
send,
Great.
did you send or will you send sort of the sample letter that you're asking for pre-approval for?
Anytime that I send, so what I did was I sent a letter out, I believe in the fall, saying I'm going to ask you guys to pre-approve sending support for these bills with the bill attachment so they could be read. And then when I send a request email asking for a letter, I will send a template with the bill numbers all filled in and the actual language that can then be adapted.
I would say to each of you that the letters from the towns are really important. But what's even more important is numbers. So every time, so for example, when the bill was in the housing committee, I think we reached out to the coalition network and ended up with maybe 200 letters. And they pay a lot of attention when the numbers are large. So all of you, when those requests come out, we've made it really easy. It's a couple of clicks. So get those letters in.
Well, for the towns, John, I actually send a
Yep.
template that goes on the letterhead. So,
Yeah.
Julie, I did send out a sample
I'm
template.
sure you did, but I'm just asking you to please send it again. That's all.
Absolutely. And whenever I send a request, I send it actually with the template for that specific bill with all the numbers in there anyway, because you can't
Yeah,
send a
yeah,
generic.
but
So,
I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure, I know the planning board never pre-approved anything. I'd be
okay.
surprised if the select board did, but we're more likely to be able to get pre-approval of something that you can put in front of them and say,
Yeah.
here's something specific.
Okay.
So,
I'll find what I sent you and I will resend it.
thank you.
Okay. To Edgartown. Okay, any more on the John, is there any kind of a conversation about a trip up to the State House again this spring, or is that like a TBD if we hear something from Julian? Because I haven't gotten a request about that yet.
Not at this moment. And actually, Julian and Matt Irish, for those of you who don't know, Matt Irish is the lobbyist who we've employed for the last 4 years. Julian and Matt feel that much more important this round is lots of individual visits to legislators. And so
Okay.
those are being set up. And so I don't think there's going to be a mass trip, but I don't know. That could come up.
Okay. And I know, Dylan, I don't know if you're doing two things at once, but I think you guys were organizing a high school trip up there to advocate. Is that correct? He may just be listening in. That was my understanding that Nantucket's going to be organizing a high school trip up there in the
There
spring.
was talk of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if we're any more questions on the transfer fee? If not, we're making good time. It's only 4:33. I'll move on to the seasonal communities. Seasonal communities. So two things I had written, seasonal communities guidance update. The update is that there is no guidance yet, that it is expected anytime this month. So they're running a little behind. It has to be approved by the governor before they can release it. I know EUHLC did their part, so my assumption is it's working its way through the channels, and hopefully we will see it by the end of the month. The regional planning agencies did meet this morning. We're meeting every 3 weeks to work on model bylaws for the tiny house bylaw and also for the undersized lot bylaw, so that when guidance is released, shortly thereafter, we can have model bylaws provided to all the towns. The good news is the tiny house bylaw is incredibly simple because it basically, once the guidance comes out, since we've, got a pretty clear idea of what the guidance is going to look like, it's just going to say that wherever you can build or create a single family dwelling, you must allow that to be a tiny house if whoever wants to build that dwelling wants something tiny. So what it does is it just does away with the square footage minimums. It doesn't create, it's not an ancillary dwelling category, nothing like that. It just does away with square footage minimums for primary residences and also acknowledges that the state of Massachusetts, in their building code updates from July, have actually codified what a tiny house is and codified regulations around alternating steps that go up to a loft, ladder access, second means of egress through either a transom or a skylight window. So that's all code now in Massachusetts. So you actually can create tiny homes in Massachusetts, which previously were very challenging because of the egress and the loft issues. So that one should be fairly simple, and we'll have a 24-month runway to get those bylaws adopted. It essentially doesn't change any of the bylaws on Martha's Vineyard, except for saying no square footage minimum for a single family home, basically. So we hope to have that model bylaw out in early February. The undersized lot bylaw, we really need to wait till we have the guidance so we can make sure that it matches exactly with the guidance. But our understanding is it will just be for existing lots, will be the requirement. And then there will be additional language should towns choose to look into creating smaller lots or undersized lots for attainable housing. But that will be by special permit, not by right. I see questions from Shanette first, and then we'll go to Elaine.
I wanted to know for the tiny homes,
Mhm.
um, the bylaw, this is specifically for year round,
Yeah,
correct? Okay,
yes, for
perfect.
year. A town can choose to not have it be to have it be for year round and seasonal, but the requirement is that it be for year round. Okay, thank you. Elaine, do you have a question? Oh, Elaine's hand came down. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Boy,
Oh, you're echoing, Elaine.
yeah, I'm having a terrible time. I'm sorry, my computer is messy. I'll put it in the chat, okay?
Okay, sounds good. All right. Uh, so so that kind of moves us along to the seasonal communities grant program, which the state notified the towns, and then I backed up the notification by notifying a couple times. And I know Island Housing Trust is being tapped by at least 3 towns to help them get their grant application in a timely fashion. So Philippe's here, and I had just mentioned to Philippe, since Anne and Peter were on early, I asked them what their status was. They said Tim's working on it for Chilmark, and I had mentioned that IHC is helping three of the other towns. So if you guys need help, like reach out as soon as possible because the deadline's coming up. Um, I want to make it really clear this is non-competitive grant funding. So this is the amount that your town gets if you file an application. You're not competing with anybody else. So I would really love to see everybody, go for the full amount, get the full amount, and if you need assistance, that deadline's coming up. So please reach out as soon as possible. Philippe, do you have any questions on that since I know you're helping a few of the towns? No? Okay. And then I did want to make it clear, and I was able to explain this to West Tisbury and I think to a couple of the other towns. This is an unusually short runway for this situation. EOHLC thought that everybody was going to get a year to apply for the funds and a year to figure out how to do it, how to expend the money. But because it's coming from the governor out of a specific funding line from the governor's budget, it's tied to the fiscal year. So that was a miscommunication and it's just an unfortunate situation. I mean, unfortunate. We're getting a lot of money, so it's just a short runway for applying for it. The next round of funding, we should have a lot more advance notice. We'll have the guidance about the year-round housing trusts, so there'll be a lot more opportunity to to do some forward thinking and planning about how the towns want to apply for that fund and apply for those funds and what they would like to direct it towards. So I know there was some, desire to use this for lease to locals, but the runway is too short, or potentially direct it to a year-round housing trust. But again, the runway is too short. But the next funding round will have those opportunities to do that. So, uh, does anyone have questions about seasonal communities, either the guidance or the grant program? Shanette? Oh, you're muted, Shanette. Can you unmute?
Sorry. Did they confirm that it can be used for the lease to local?
I don't think that was specifically asked because nobody has enough time to West Tisbury was the town that was looking to potentially put it towards a future lease to locals program, but there's not enough runway to apply for the funds, get a program approved, and get it spent. So no one has specifically asked that question. My read from the guidance, I mean, from the grant information, is that it could potentially be used for a lease to locals program.
Okay, because when I went to the guidance, they had a guidance, seminar. And when I went to the guidance seminar, multiple people asked about the lease to local, and they said that, they had to get back, I guess. They were going to get back to us. That's why I was wondering if they got to you or anything in regards to it.
They haven't gotten back to me. I think a
Okay,
specific request from a town detailing what it was and how it would be used would be approvable.
okay,
I think it's one of those things where it's hard to address when you don't see the proposal in front of you because Lisa Locals has a bunch of different iterations. But as Chilmark's implementing it and as West Tisbury's looking at implementing it, I believe that that would be approvable.
okay.
So maybe next year. Okay. So that's like the meat of what we're talking about today. And then there were just a couple of announcements about um, MVC is hosting is it Lucy? You're gonna have to remind me who's doing the presentation because I just drew a blank. It's EOHLC. No, CPTC.
The Citizen Planner Training Collaborative.
Thank you. In conjunction with EOHLC, because they draw folks from there to do trainings, they're going to be offering a fair housing training, which the MVC has asked them to offer virtually. So this is geared for the MVC and the MVC commissioners and staff, but it's open to the whole island. We're really encouraging town board members to attend. So that's up on the MVC website. It's February 12th at 6:30 p.m. It's a virtual training. It's about 1 hour. And I've been to their in-person trainings. This is really important information, particularly because we spend a lot of time talking about local preference and how to implement local preference. There's a lot of rules and regulations around local preference, and I think understanding what you can and can't do with local preference, particularly for this community, is really important to understand so that we're not, setting goals that are at odds with what is allowed in the state. So again, fair housing training, 6:30 p.m., Thursday, February 12th, online. You do not have to register in advance, and Lucy's going to have the login information up on that calendar event on the MVC website. I believe we will record that, right, Lucy? Okay, so we'll make that available afterwards for anybody who's not able to attend. And then Mass Housing Partnership, I had just wanted to flag their virtual trainings. And if your board or committee has not yet gone online to sign up for notifications from Mass Housing Partnership, please make it a priority to do that. If you yourself want to do that personally, they don't send a ton of emails, but the availability of these trainings are really fantastic. They are, of course, I don't have it in my notes here. What did I say they were doing, Lucy? Is the next one in January?
I
Who
don't know.
knows? They've been offering affordable housing trust trainings. They have a couple more trainings coming up. And then they also offer a lottery certification training so that somebody in your town can be certified to run an affordable housing lottery or a home site lottery. That's something that has been done in the past by administrators. They've gotten trained. You know, Shanette's reached out to MHP and asked to be notified of the next training. They don't have a date yet. This is a great thing for somebody in your town to be trained to do, particularly as towns start looking at lots or projects over 150% AMI, because DCRHA is only, and David, if you're still on here, you can, if you want to speak to this, DCRHA is allowed by the state through their enabling legislation to go up to 150% AMI, but they're not doing lotteries or planning on doing lotteries for home sites or properties over 150% or year round with no AMI attached. Is that correct, David?
Uh, we
Partially?
don't have that plan right now,
Okay.
but we're not opposed to it. The devil's in the details, that's all.
Okay.
When the towns have programs offering lots and the parameters are clear, yeah, we'd love to look at it. We just finished the lottery for the four ownership townhouses at Mashakit Commons. There's a lot that go into lotteries. I think the fair housing training is wonderful that that's been being offered widely. But a lot of training, a lot of stuff learned over many years. So if towns begin to have certified agents, I hope that we can be of assistance to them in supporting them. But I wouldn't rule us out for above 150. Probably no income attached would be beyond us, but the our limitations, I don't believe they really extend to acting as lottery agents. If we were doing
Okay.
restrictions or that, yeah, 150 would cap us. But I,
That's great to hear,
yeah,
David, because there's some, I know Edgartown there's a project that's being proposed through a DRI process that the applicant's talking to the Affordable Housing Committee, and the awarding of those mitigation lots that they would be offering would go via lottery, and they would be over 150. So that's really great if DCRHA is open to administering those lotteries. That solves a lot of problems for the towns.
yeah, definitely open to looking at any individual project for sure. Yep.
Great. Well, so at any rate, the MHP virtual trainings also include some training around affirmative fair housing marketing plans, which will help the towns understand how do you actually run these things and why are you running them and what do you need to have in them so that you're eligible to get units 80% below on the subsidized housing inventory. So anyway, it's my last plug for MHP. Please sign up for notifications. Um, that is all I have, and it's 4:46. But Wanda has her hand up. Can I answer a question for you, Wanda?
Training would include home site lots, rentals, but would also include habitat for
I'm
housing.
sorry, Wanda, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you say that again?
This is they're hard to hear. They're open though. Would that include habitat housing training for?
Habitat, I'm sorry, say that again. Habitat, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Habitat's at 80%, so that falls into the DCRHA. Do you run the lotteries for Habitat, David, or is that a different?
No, we assist them and with the process, we do their income certifications.
Okay.
And we work with them on their terms because, yeah, so we've been very active with them, but no, they have their own, as you know, state sanctioned selection process. As regards fair housing, they have an agreement that's a bit different, but the income certs and other aspects we support them with, yes.
Thanks, David. And their process, Wanda, aligns with the affirmative fair housing marketing plan requirements of the state. So as long as they follow those requirements, then the habitat units are eligible to be counted on the subsidized housing inventory. And we do have a lot of habitat units on the island that are showing on the SHIs for the towns.
Great.
Does anybody else have anything you want to bring up or any questions you have for each other, like status in the other towns? Any questions for me?
He just shared that 88 Pin Oak Circle is closing. They're, I guess they'll be moving. They're ready to rent that out. I think the lease was on, but I don't know if he's still here.
I'm sorry,
Philippe,
what
is
was
it
the question?
Philippe?
something about 88 Pin Oak Circle?
What about it?
I don't know. Did you say that they're
They're here informed, well, the planning board was informed that they were closing. They're getting ready to close out. Are you
I,
complete?
I can't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, Wanda. Maybe you can drop it in the chat because we can't hear you. Okay. All right. Anybody else? David, how much longer do we have you for before we lose you?
Uh, a whole 3 months. Thank
Okay.
you for asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, much appreciation to David. We will make sure that we pick your brain as much as possible over the next 3 months. If I could get a round of applause for David just for all
Oh
many
my,
years of
thank you.
service and much appreciation
Look
for
at
these
that.
last
It
months.
looks like this. Yeah. Nice. Appreciate it, Laura.
Okay, super. All right. Um, Thank you, everybody. And again, if you need any help in the last 48 hours of the Seasonal Communities Grant Program, please reach out to Philippe and myself, and we'll be happy to do what we can. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a great night.